about skateboarding, but you're just not very good at jumping up and down on your favorite piece of wood. Crap skateboarding, crap skateboarding podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Crap Skateboarding podcast, a weekly dive into skateboarding for the average skater, hosted by me, James.
And me, Jack.
In this podcast, two distinctly average skaters will try and cover pretty much everything you might want to know about skating, from total beginners to midlife crisis resurgent shredders.
Each week we'll be discussing a range of exciting topics regarding skateboarding in these uncertain times.
And this week, Mr. Barker, our topic is...
Drum roll, please.
Skateboarding
in a pandemic. That was bloody perfect.
This is going well already. Excellent.
James, what's brought this about, mate?
Well, you and I both noticed this year there's been sort of an onslaught of new and old skaters picking up their boards again. So lots of new skaters who are picking up a board for the first time. And you, myself, and actually quite a few of our friends have also, people who've been skateboarding back when we were younger, haven't done it for a while, and just started dusting off our old boards again or picking up new setups. And actually, 2020, the year of the Great Plague, has actually brought the biggest increase in new and sort of re-engaged skaters since the early 2000s, back when Tony Hawk was taking off and introduced a whole new generation to skateboarding. Complete setups have been the most in-demand item this year. There's been sometimes a 2 to 3 month wait in some skate shops to get complete setups, which indicates that people are either restarting because they haven't got their old equipment, or are starting completely from new, trying to get a setup, a whole new setup, and not just digging out the old bits. In fact, there's an app that you can get called My Skate, which is an app for finding parks and spots, and in just 2020 alone, it had almost 200,000 new users, which indicates a huge uptake in new skaters.
I've got that, I got that app. Right.
I haven't actually had a look at it myself. I will have to have a look at it.
Do you know, it's quite fun. You can look for spots. And I don't know why, but I'm in a bit of a funk with parks at the moment, and I've really got a hankering to go and find dirty spots.
Something a bit gnarly.
I think I've just been watching too many heroin videos, and that's what I want.
Like death skateboards and that kind of...
Yeah, all that stuff. But I put in my postcode in like North Somerset, and I was like, yeah, come on, bring me the spots, because it brags about, And there's nothing. Apparently in fact, there's a car repair shop that has a nice bank out there. Yeah. Yes,
it does. That's down near where I used to live, actually. We've skated past there a couple of times on the way to the park, funnily enough.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah. I would just like to point out that Jack does, in fact, live in the middle of nowhere. So it's kind of not to be expected that there's not a huge amount of spots there. I've not had a look at this app. I will have to check it out, because I am living in a city at the moment. So I'm sure there's plenty of places that I haven't actually seen or been to that I need to check out. So yeah, I will have a look at that. Which is probably a good idea, because demand for skateboarding has been so big. A lot of the parks are incredibly busy. And this is mostly down to the fact that even during the pandemic, when the government was locking down a lot of outdoor play parks and outdoor gyms and outdoor recreational places, Skateboard England and Skateboard GB actually worked with the government to make sure that skate parks remained open in 2020, which meant that they were becoming sort of a central hub for lots and lots of new skaters and old skaters alike, which is brilliant. It's sort of actively encouraging people to get out on their boards and move more, because it is a really, really good way to not just have fun, see some mates, socially distance, of course, in this particular occasion, but also to get some exercise in.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this before, I know. We feel differently about this, but I'm one of those terrible people that I know I should exercise more than I probably do. But I don't enjoy exercise by the traditional means. I don't enjoy it for exercise's sake. I have a very short attention span. And skateboarding has been an absolute godsend for me during the pandemic, just having a reason to get outside on my one exercise a day and really make it count.
I think that's something that's sort of been shared nationally, looking at all the statistics. I mean, it's a perfect time to do it as well, to get all these people into skating, because this year, with the delayed Olympics, is the introduction of skateboarding as an Olympic sport. So it's now officially recognised as an Olympic sport. It is a proper sport in, hyphen marks there. It has been for a long time with things like Street League and the X Games, obviously, all the way back to 1999, 2000. But there's a real resurgence this year, just in terms of how it's going to be covered by the media, how it's going to be, on national television, and how many people are out and about doing it. I'm seeing more and more people our age, and I'd just like to point out that Jack and I are both now in our 30s, so we're all a bit creaky and we land quite heavily these days. But we're seeing more and more people around our age skating around as well, so it's no longer just people who are necessarily sort of the younger establishment. We're seeing people who are taking up skateboarding in their 30s, 40s, and beyond, which I think has been fantastic to see. There's been very, very few reasons to celebrate over the last year or so. It's all been fairly, I think you can agree with me, been fairly terrible. But for skateboarding, there's the skate shops that may have closed down have seen a boom in sales, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I can get in on that. I definitely think that, speaking for myself, and I might be speaking for you too a little bit, I know that we've known each other our whole lives, and we've always been into skateboarding. We were part of that not that first boom, but we were part of that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, PlayStation 1 boom of interest in skateboarding. That was very much our generation, I think.
Turn of the millennium skaters.
Yeah, that's it. And I think every few years I get really into it, and then life gets in the way, and it falls away, and then I find these opportunities to jump back into it. And I think this year, it's really been an incredible thing. And I think you talk about buying new equipment, and that's really interesting, because I don't know why this is. Maybe I'm just that much of a consumerist. I don't know, but I definitely feel like when I want to get back into something, I had all the gear, that's all fine.
Yeah.
But actually buying myself a new board and new trucks and new wheels, even though I didn't really need it, it's incredibly wasteful, really. But I really felt like, no, I'm making a statement. I'm getting back into this. I'm really going to give it a good go. So, you mentioned here, I'm just looking through your carefully prepared talking points, James. And it's very, so before this, James and I agreed to prepare separately points to talk about and how we'd address that. And I just wrote a lot of really ego-driven stories about myself. And James did lots of actual research and found all these statistics, which is it's incredible. But I think that's definitely the relationship we're going to have. I think that's evident.
The one fun one and the one rational one. So I do apologise.
That's a nice way, fun. Yeah, nice way of saying lazy. But thank you. Yeah. But there's a few things you've said that may have contributed to this massive uptake in skateboarding, and I've noticed you've said about the Olympics there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because I think that's a really interesting thing to talk about. So I don't know what you've seen, but I've seen some really polarizing things about skateboarding being included in the Olympics.
It's a bit of
go on.
It's a bit of a divisive topic, isn't it? And I think a lot of that comes down to skateboarding as a culture. Some people want to keep it kind of counterculture and underground, which I completely get. I completely understand. It very much is the case that for a lot of people, skateboarding is an anti-establishment sport. But equally, I don't see why that kind of additional sort of awareness of skateboarding and seeing, encouraging the wider population to see it as a genuinely valuable pastime, a generally valuable hobby and potentially competitive sport. I don't see what's wrong with that, because ultimately all you're doing is not necessarily getting people to approve more of skating, but certainly see skateboarding isn't necessarily a bad thing, because people will be more accepting of people who skate.
By the way, I'm playing a bit of a devil's advocate here, but it's also interesting because I'm undecided on this, and I mean that really sincerely. I mean, jury's out, because I just don't know how I feel about it. I think to a degree we're all sort of posers, as skateboarders, and we all have the thing that sparked us and things that got us interested in skateboarding and how it is to us. And I feel like you're right. When we were kids, we were both polite kids. I don't think we were, but equally, because we did that activity, you're right. People did, make trouble with us, especially older people would. That's the only time I ever got really in trouble in my childhood, was through skateboarding. And at the time, that was absolutely a bad thing, and I agree with you. However, I think after a lifetime of I think you kind of adapt to the idea, and you almost start to celebrate that. You almost start to think, well, actually, you don't need the approval or necessarily want the approval of people who disapproved of you in the past, and you can exist without it. I know this is true for loads of cultures and loads of hobbies. So I do completely understand it. I'm of two minds, because I think actually it's brilliant, anything that gets more people into it.
Yeah.
Equally, there's a bit of a snobbery that I think I definitely have, like a reverse snobbery, where I feel a bit like, and I don't really mean this, sometimes I feel like, actually, I don't, gatekeeping's bad, but I don't want that guy into it, I don't, that guy's a bit too cool for
you want to keep it down and dirty.
Yeah, a little bit, like when you see the kids and you think, oh, that guy was completely captain of the football team at secondary school. I don't really want him doing it, because I know that he probably would have laughed at us for doing it at a certain point in our lives, and that's it's really not a good reason to have an argument against it being in the Olympics or making it more accessible. But I think I definitely get that emotional reaction where you kind of, no, I want to keep it raw, and I kind of like people having a problem with it a little bit. I like it being dirty and not being taken seriously, because you think, well, actually, we love it. And if you love it, even though people have an issue with it, and even though people will, have certain ideas about you for doing it, I think that means you really love it. If you're still going to do it,
Well, you can clearly see the arguments on both sides, can't you? And there's always, with any kind of activity and any hobby, there's kind of the people that's identity is built around skateboarding and skate culture. People who, their music taste, their clothing taste, it's all built up around skating and skateboarding and social circles of skating. And that's brilliant. It's absolutely wonderful. And you can very much see how you wouldn't want people maybe being outsiders coming into that, sort of infiltrating your kind of, your lifestyle, you were saying. And you get that with kind of anything, don't you? You get with video games, gamers who accuse others of not being real gamers, and you get sort of musicians.
Oh, it's a bad thing. I think it's understandable, but it's a bad thing.
And on the flip side, skateboarding thrives through its community and skate shops, and ultimately we want that community to exist, and that community is only going to exist in those skateboard shops, and the people who own those skate shops and run skate comps and own skate brands, they're only going to survive if people want to skate, and if people want to skate, it's because they've seen other people skating.
Yeah, 100%. And sorry, go on.
And that sort of Olympic visibility, I guarantee you, will get people who wouldn't have even thought about skateboarding will be watching that, going, I didn't realise people could do that with a plank of wood on wheels. If you get somebody who's never seen a skateboard watching somebody like Sky Brown pulling out like 540 twists on the vert ramp, that opens up the gates for lots of young women skaters. And if you get people, you get a kid who's been asking his parents for a skateboard for 2 years, and they've always gone, no, that's unsafe, we don't want you doing that, it's dangerous. And they see somebody nailing a kick the backside lip slide in a registered Olympic competition. That's just gonna, if anything, that's gonna be good. And it will lead to more people skating, but more people skating is a good thing.
It is a good thing, man. It is. And this is it. It's one of those where I understand it because I feel it. It's a heart versus head thing.
Yeah.
It's hard not to feel bitter. But by the same measure, you're right. You're talking about female skaters, for example. Actually, not you. You're more pragmatic than I am. But I think I romanticize my gateway into skateboarding and the way that it was for us, and it was wonderful. But actually, what it was a boys' club, and really, absolutely. there was a lot of, not that I was ever muscly, but there was a lot of muscle flexing. I never was into that, but there was that almost competitive element where we were lucky. We had our local skate park, but there was a kind of fierce localism there as well.
Yeah, and it was a boys' club, wasn't it?
It was an absolute boys' club.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, and then situation. We all grew up, and we look back. I mean, we're probably partly to blame for this. Not just us, but the generation above us too. Where we've grown up, and now we complain. I know I complain because I think, well, kids don't skateboard. When you go to the skate park, we're both in our 30s, and sometimes we're the younger end of some sessions, at the skate park in terms of skateboarders. But actually, these things will have contributed to that to some degree.
So there's a few Facebook groups Jack and I are both members of, and I think it's been amazing, and sort of certainly this year when you might not be able to see people as much as you would normally want to, or meet people at skate parks, to meet like-minded people and speak to like-minded people online. And there's a lot of people going to skate parks, and there's every sort of few hours there's something there going, I've just started skating. I've just got a new board, or I want to learn how to ollie, I want to learn how to kickflip, this is my first kickflip, what do you all think? And everyone is really supportive and really encouraging. And it is really lovely to see how sort of positive and encouraging and responsive people are on these online communities to new skaters and people who are struggling, and just to each other.
Yeah, a huge shout out to UK Skateboarding Collective in particular.
Yeah, which started really small, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that's been an incredible,
Grown.
again, really supportive, lots of sharing of ideas and tips and techniques, and not unsolicited advice and badgering, but just really mutual. From what I've seen, it seems like a really great virtual space.
Yeah, and the guys that moderate it do a really good job of keeping it positive and keeping it.
Hey man, I've just thought, actually, hold on, I'm going back. I've just thought of my biggest gripe with Olympic skateboarding, right? Here it is.
Right.
This is my biggest issue with it. I am in my 30s now, and I'm not that good at skateboarding, and I still do it, right?
Yep.
Now, when it was countercultural, when it still is, to some extent, we all skate differently. It can't be judged by a kind of set of a set of differentials that you can then judge it by. And that was the kind of the way of thinking. Actually, it's an art. Everyone does it differently. Everyone puts their own spin on it. Look at this. Video parts were maybe how you judge, because you could be very creative in them and have your own style and what it might be. When you think of it as a counterculture, then everything I do is like a choice, I think I like having an issue with the Olympics, because then I'm not a competitive skateboarder. It's like a choice, I will never be as good as those people, but actually by posing myself against it, I'm not a competitive skateboarder. It's not a sport to me. I'm not trying to win. Therefore, being crap, that is a choice I've made. That is my integrity intact. I have, if skateboarding becomes a sport with winners and losers, then I am always going to be the loser. I'm never going to win. If skateboarding is a sport now, then I'm fucked, basically. If skateboarding is an art, then I'm, actually, you just don't get my style. It's fine.
So what you're saying is you're objecting to the sort of quantifiable measurement of skill in order to justify our collective lack of ability.
Correct. And thank you for dragging yourself down with me there, mate. That was really good.
We didn't have any kind of sort of mentors, did we? Because we lived in a small village that was miles away from anywhere, and we didn't, obviously back then we didn't have broadband or YouTube, what's called DVDs. I think, remember VHS of Go Yeah Right was like 30 quid. So we didn't have easy access to skate videos. So I think pretty much for the best part of a couple of years, our only kind of exposure to how to skateboard properly was the videos on Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, which we would watch over and over and over and over again. And obviously we didn't have anyone correcting us or showing us what to do or teaching us what to do. So we kind of developed our own sort of fudgy styles, didn't we? And
I feel like I've still got that fudgy style. I can do more stuff now, but I've got habits that I'll never get rid of, and I've given up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
like
reinforce those habits. Yeah. Oh, admitting it on the first episode, Jack.
Oh, let's get
honestly.
It out there, The funny one,
the
because
dirty laundry as soon as you can.
Do you know what? Let's get it out there. I used to feel really self-conscious about that, because obviously it's a bit of a stigma. Increasingly less, interestingly enough.
Can I just pause you for a second there, just kind of before you carry on, just in case somebody who's new to skateboarding might be listening to this, can you explain what pushing mongo is?
Pushing mongo is when you push with the front foot. So if you're on your skateboard, you'd normally lift up your back foot and push with that, because that makes sense. And if you push mongo, you lift up your front foot, basically spin your body halfway around to orient yourself with the ground, and it looks ridiculous. And that's what I do. Yeah. And there was a time for a couple of years where I was really consciously trying not to do it. And I got to a certain age and I thought, I'm not going to live forever. Who cares? Fuck it.
Yeah. Skate well.
Yeah.
And I think this brings us right around to kind of a very important point, and it's skate in a way that makes you happy, because ultimately that's why you're skateboarding. You know, you pick up a skateboard because it's fun. You know, it's a challenge. It's an escape from real life. There's many reasons why you might skate. And you know, you grew up pushing that way, and that was the reason. Realistically, and I think you could probably agree with me here. I'm not you. I can't say this for sure, but it's probably because that was what was most comfortable for you at the time.
Yeah,
and
to me it feels like
you
know, to me, and there's probably other people, you know, who are in the Mongo closet who don't want to admit that. But actually, to me, it was as natural as standing goofy on a skateboard. I'm never going to be a professional anyway, so it doesn't matter to me if it looks ugly or not. You know?
I think we all had our illusions when we were like 12 or 13. Yeah, we'd be pro, we'd be sponsored by, you know, local teams and then national, you know, like national companies, and I think everyone had those. And there's very few people that did get to that point, but most of us, we just do it because it's fun and we want to be comfortable.
Yeah, man. I remember when I remember learning to boneless for the first time. Boneless being a trick where you, instead of ollieing, you hold onto your board, throw your foot down on the floor, and propel yourself up into the air to a great height, and it's lots of fun. I remember doing that for the first time and being convinced I'd be the next Mike Vallely. I really thought no one had done it apart from or since Mike Vallely, and I would be the next Mike. But look, I can do this. This is amazing. You're still holding on to that.
The last time I tried that trick, Jack has a mini ramp in his garden. The last time I tried that trick, I tried to do a bonus out of the mini. Got quite a bit of height, caught the board quite high in the air, felt amazing for all of about a second and a half, landed on transition. I'm not a transition skater, I'm more of a sort of street skater, park skater, and the board shot off underneath me and I hit my head harder than I've hit my head since I was about 15.
Do you know what?
It was quite something, wasn't it?
2 points there.
On, it was
you put yourself down. You're saying you're not a transition skater, but you are better than most on that mini ramp or on any mini ramp that you'd normally see. You're definitely doing yourself a disservice. Yeah.
So
importantly, not to stroke your ego, mate. More importantly, leads us on to a really important point there: gear, skate. Like when you're skateboarding, there. So you banged your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are now we're old enough to be in, you know, the old skaters subreddit. So
it's
we are
bad,
old
isn't
skaters.
it? We're young men.
Yeah. We're young men. So we're in our 30s now. Interesting fact that I only found out recently when I was reading a book on biology, because it's apparently a thing that I do now. A small child hits their head with 32 times less force when they fall than an adult does on average.
Is that true?
Yes. And that's due to the relative effects of gravity on body mass and volume. So even though you might not be 32 times bigger than a child, the relative effect of gravity on your volume as an average is 32 times more if you hit your head on the floor from a standing height, which is why children mostly seem invincible and why we could smack our heads repeatedly on the concrete as children skateboarding and not, well, I mean, I think we have suffered a bit from it, but not too badly. I have since bought a helmet. And this has been something that's come up fairly recently on a lot of the sort of the new skaters asking about gear. A lot of people who've been skating for a while will now say get a helmet and get pads. Two reasons behind that. Obviously the primary reason is that elbow pads, knee pads and a helmet will protect you when you fall. Helmet is the most important one for fairly obvious reasons. With the second reason that you might want to pad up, and certainly if you're new to skateboarding, you're going to fall over. And you need to kind of embrace that. Skateboarding, you have to kind of embrace the fact that you will fall, and you will learn fairly quickly how to fall, how to bail. But if you have pads on, it gives you that little bit of extra confidence. It gives you the confidence to learn to fall, it gives you the confidence to learn to bail, and it gives you the confidence to try new tricks. So a lot of skaters now will wear pads. A lot of very good skaters will go to skate parks and wear pads. Back when we were growing up, not many people did. You know, it was uncool, wasn't it?
It was really uncool. I remember there's a big skate park near us called Mount Hawke down in Cornwall, where we're from, and people used to you had to wear a helmet to get into Mount Hawke. And I remember people used to go in, take off their helmets and hide them, and they'd be constantly getting bollocked by the poor staff there. That for insurance reasons, I guess they had to have their helmet on. But I think we need to normalise the pads thing. I think that's another good thing that can come up with the Olympic side of things, is actually seeing these people wearing their pads doing,
Yeah.
while skateboarding, because it is a big deal. And also it does give you that confidence. When I first got back into it, I say got back into it, when I started doing it a lot again, when the first lockdown happened, I couldn't go outside. I was medically vulnerable at the time, classed as, so I was supposed to keep to myself as much as I could, and I got very bored. So in my garden, we built a mini ramp, a wooden ramp.
The official Crap Skaters mini ramp.
Yeah, the official Crap Skaters mini ramp. Do you know what? It's quite fun. It would be a really nice ramp. Apart from, my garden's not that level, so every time that it's wet, the ground sinks a bit, and we have to rebalance it with bits of slate or whatever we can find to keep it as level as we can. But
I'd like to clarify, I love this ramp, but it is the sketchiest thing I've ever skated.
I know that's not true. That's for another day. It's a lot of fun. But I remember standing at the top of that ramp, and it's a 4.5 foot
Yeah.
ramp. It's not huge. It's not tiny, but it's not huge. 4.5 foot mini ramp.
Standard sort of mini ramp.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
I remember standing at the top of it and looking down, and it'd been about 3 years since I'd dropped in. I hadn't skated transition for 3 years. I'd just skated little street spots, and standing at the top of it was terrifying. Even this wooden ramp in my garden, I was really terrified. And I think that having the pads on, the wrist guards were a lifesaver for me. I think it just gave me the confidence to fall off and be okay with falling off, because I did fall off a fair few times, and I do fairly regularly.
We can both say, it's safe to say now, we could injure ourselves 6, 7 times in a single session back then, and skate the whole of the next day, whereas I will absolutely stack it now and be off for 3 days because I can't walk.
I think that the common thread in me getting hurt skateboarding is you, and I've noticed this. So if I'm skateboarding with other friends, they'll I think when I'm skateboarding with other friends, they're either at a very level ability to me or like a bit newer to skateboarding, and that's fine. So I think if I don't want to try something, they're not going to try it. So they don't egg me on as such. They'll tell me well done if I do it, but they won't egg me on. Whereas James is, more accomplished than I am, and he's also a terrible influence. So he creates a competitive atmosphere and tries to get me to do things. I don't want to not do it. So I just find, I get it. When you're involved, I get hurt an awful lot. When back in June, we were skating a big old concrete bowl up near here, and I
really nice
it
bowl,
was bigger than anything I'd skated before. Yeah, it is really high. It was bigger than anything transition I'd skated before.
I think it was
and I was weighing it up, and then
it's
pretty big. And you told me to just have a go. It's fine, and it was fine until I rolled my ankle, and now that ankle is still dodgy. I still skate because of ibuprofen, really. It's definitely taken a toll. It's done something.
Yeah, I'm terribly sorry about it. It wasn't the first time, was it? I waxed up a ledge a few weeks beforehand and sent you flying, and then
no, you didn't just wax up a ledge. I was trying to board slide this ledge, and I did it. I want to clarify now, I managed to do it, so fuck you. But I was board sliding this ledge. James waxed up the ledge, fine, to help it slide a bit. I didn't realise until after the fact, he waxed my bloody wheels as well. Oh, this will help. So I picked up my board. Jesus.
It wasn't the wheels I waxed. It was the middle. So the jack was on the board side, the side of a manual pad, and to give him a little bit of it, he was sticking. His front wheels were sticking on the inside of the box, and so he would slide along the ledge, but his front wheels were sticking. So I may have waxed up the surface of the manual pad, which probably wasn't the best idea in the world, but you did then land the trick.
I did
after
land the
giving
trick.
your leg gangrene.
Fun fact, James. That was in July.
Something like that, yeah.
When I tore the skin off my knee that day, before I landed it, when I tore the skin off my knee. And it then, as you know, that got horribly infected. So I had several trips to the doctor later and lots of courses of antibiotics that eventually healed. You've never seen anything like it. But oh my God, it was disgusting.
So long story
my knee
short,
is still blue. So from where it healed, I now have one dark blue knee where it just never really went back to normal. And apparently
You're
it's
welcome.
fine. So I guess that's just a thing I have now.
Yeah, that's it. That's part of you now, mate. You always remember that. Like, you'll be like 80, like thinking back in your life, looking at your blue knee, going, "What a knob." So, long story short, wear pads. It will make you more confident. It will protect you. Certainly, if you are stressing or worrying about a trick, and don't go skating with me. You see a lot of people, certainly new skaters, and maybe people who haven't bought a board as well, kind of asking what board to get, or what's the minimum you should spend on a setup. Where do you get a board from? And I think it's fairly important to kind of point out that you should get the best board that you can afford, because with skateboarding there are two things you can buy. You can buy a skateboard and you can buy a skateboard shaped object. They're two separate things.
Like a toy skateboard, you know.
Ultimately, you want with a skateboard, there's a few important considerations to make. Obviously, it's made up of the deck, your trucks, your wheels, your bearings, and your hardware, which is the screws that bind the board together, and your grip tape as well. A few things you can get away with spending a little bit less money on. So you can get a good set of bearings reasonably cheap. You can get a good set of wheels reasonably cheap. I know you can get, certainly you can get brands like Enough or Fracture will do some perfectly functional wheels for about 12-15 quid. Bearings equally, you could spend about 10 quid for a good set of bearings. Certainly a functional set of bearings that will do you absolutely fine for the beginning. The two things you absolutely want to make sure you're spending money on are your trucks and your deck. And the reason for that is those are the two things that will have the biggest impact on how your board feels. And if you are riding something that weighs a ton, doesn't turn, or sticks when you try and turn, you're not going to have fun. You're not going to enjoy it. And
yeah, man. I
largely what skating is.
I largely agree with that. I think, do you know, funnily enough, you say this. This was a discussion topic on the Facebook group UK Skateboarding Collective, and it was a really divisive topic. People really strongly disagree with each other about this. So yeah, we've got to tread carefully. And I know that my opinion on this is controversial, but I think a deck above all else. People really wildly disagree with me on that, because your deck will be the thing you break first.
Yeah.
You know, so in a way, some would argue you can get something a bit crapper and it'll be fine. But actually, yeah, if you've got a really crap deck, that doesn't necessarily mean cheap either. But if you've got a really crap deck, it will everything feels right.
Ultimately, a good deck is basically just a well-pressed 7 or 8 ply Canadian maple board that has had a good quality glue and been pressed and bonded properly with a good concave. And you can get that for, you're right, about £30-35. I think looking at kind of what's available at the moment, I would agree that your deck is the most important part, but your trucks equal to, if not secondary to that, because you get some cheap trucks that when you turn they might stick, or if you try and grind on them they'll break, and they don't turn very well, they don't stick very well, or they're really heavy. And I think about the minimal spend at the moment for a new setup that will see you for certainly the first sort of year or so of skateboarding, you can get for about £50, I think is
that's reasonable,
a good price to pay. And you're looking at kind of a complete setup there, so a beginner setup and a few different skate shops will do those. They will give you a good mid-range set of trucks. They'll give you their shop blank or a blank deck or their shop brand. And it's probably a really good reason why you should be walking into a skate shop to buy your board if you've not bought one for the first time, because you can then have a look at it, get recommendations, and get kind of the best product for the least amount of money. Because what you don't want to be doing is going to a non-skate shop, or a high street shop that sells lots of other things and that sells something that looks like a skateboard, because a proper skateboard has been made to do tricks with, and proper skate shops will sell those, and you don't have to spend a fortune for them. About £50 is about kind of what you can get a half decent first time setup for, and certainly you can get really good quality UK decks for £30-35. And if you're looking at sort of the more budget ends, Fracture can do that. I think Heroin is sometimes a bit towards the cheaper end, aren't they, even though they're really good quality decks. Death can be around £40, something like that. for the decks. And if you get it all as a bundle with sort of a set of fractured trucks or birdhouse trucks that are, mid-range, they will do you very well, and you won't spend a fortune for it.
Yeah, make sure your truck's the right width. When we grew up skating, like, I felt like I'm going to be wrong here. I feel like everything must have been the same size, because until the last 2 years, possibly, I never paid mind to the size of my trucks. I just walk into a shop, look at the sort of cheapest, reasonable trucks I could get, point at them, take them home, attach them to my board, and it was fine. Never an issue. And then I've gone to an 8.5 width deck recently. I never really paid any attention to the width of my deck. I just bought a deck. Generally, I'm a bit of a poser. I like the graphics or whatever it might be. I'd get that if I like the aesthetic. And I got you bought me, actually, as my 30th birthday present, an 8.5 deck to help skate my mini ramp. Wide decks are generally better for transition, people say. So we got that, shoved it on my truck, and every time I tried to turn, I'd come flying off it because the crazy wheel bite.
I've been discussing this, actually. I have discussed this with a few people. And back when we started skateboarding, skinnier boards were kind of the trend, or certainly when we started skateboarding or in our teens, skinnier boards were the trend, and skinny boards, small wheels, baggy clothes. So we're looking at sort of 7.25, 7.5, 7.75, maybe at the widest for a deck. I don't recall ever sort of buying an 8-inch deck or seeing them very often at all. You've done sort of 50mm wheels as well. And with since then, certainly in the last few years, decks seem to have gotten much wider, and sort of 8 inches to 8.25 seems to be kind of the most common width now. So decks as a whole have got wider. And certainly when I'm looking at decks, even though I've got substantially sized feet, I always get really skinny boards because I like how easy they flip. And I'm struggling to find the skinnier boards. But all of my trucks have always been kind of standard skinny board trucks, or skinny to mid-sized board trucks. And back then, a lot of the skinny boards and the trucks matched up because that was pretty much all everyone skated, was just the skinny boards, and they all fit together to a degree. But there's so many more options now, 8.5.
Yeah.
I remember watching you try and do a primo on that, and it just wasn't happening.
Oh, I think that's how I discovered, possibly. That was one of the moments I thought I need to get wider trucks.
I've been James.
I've been Jack.
And we will speak to you next time. Thank you for joining us.
See you later, alligator.
If you love skateboarding but you're just not very good at jumping up and down on your favorite piece of wood,